From the moment I met Daniel, I believed God had finally answered my prayers. He was everything I had dreamed of: kind, intelligent, and most importantly, deeply devoted to faith. We met at a charity event hosted by my church, and when he spoke about his spiritual journey, I was captivated. He told me he had found solace in religion after a difficult past, that faith had saved him just as it had saved me. Our relationship blossomed quickly. We prayed together, attended Bible study, and talked endlessly about God's plan for our future. He would hold my hand during Sunday service, whispering that he felt blessed to be with me. Every part of me believed we were aligned not just in love, but in soul. But looking back, I realized the signs were always there. There were moments when I'd ask him about scripture and he'd hesitate before answering, as if grasping for the right words. He avoided deep theological discussions, redirecting the conversation with a charming smile. When I suggested fasting together for Lent, he seemed uncomfortable but agreed. Yet, when the time came, I caught him eating in secret. He laughed it off, calling it a slip up, but something about his reaction left me unsettled. Then there were the small inconsistencies. He never initiated prayer, always waiting for me to lead. When we visited my parents, who were devout believers, he was warm and respectful, but I noticed how carefully he chose his words, as if walking on eggshells. And then the biggest red flag: the night he admitted he had never been baptized. "I just never got around to it," he said with a casual shrug. "But I will. Before the wedding, I promise." I wanted to believe him. I needed to. On our wedding day, as we stood before the altar, he took my hands in his and vowed to walk with me in faith for the rest of our lives. "With God as our witness," he said, "I will honor him and you in our marriage." His voice was steady, his eyes locked onto mine with such sincerity that my heart swelled with love. It was the most beautiful lie I had ever heard. At first, I tried to ignore the nagging doubts that crept into my mind. After all, no one is perfect in faith. I told myself that Daniel was still growing, still learning. Love, I reminded myself, is patient, but patience has its limits. One night, months into our marriage, I woke up to find Daniel missing from our bed. At first, I assumed he had gone to get water or use the bathroom, but when he didn't return, I got up to check. The house was silent except for a faint murmuring coming from his office. As I approached the door, I heard him speaking in hushed tones. My stomach twisted when I realized he wasn't praying, he was laughing. And then I heard words that sent ice through my veins. "It's honestly hilarious," he said, amusement thick in his voice. "She actually believes I'm religious. Can you imagine? Every time she talks about God, I just nod along. It's exhausting, but worth it." I pressed my hand against my mouth, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. I wanted to stop listening, to turn away and pretend I hadn't heard, but I was frozen. "She'd never have married me otherwise," he continued. "And honestly, what does it matter? Religion is just a crutch for people who can't face reality. If keeping up this act makes her happy, fine. But God, faith, it's all nonsense." I felt the ground shift beneath me. My entire marriage and everything I'd believed about us was a lie. He had never struggled with faith. He had never been on a spiritual journey. He had simply played a role, one convincing enough to fool me, to fool my family, to fool everyone. The realization burned through me, leaving behind only betrayal and rage. I wanted to burst into the room, to scream, to demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I backed away, my heart pounding, my mind racing. If he had lied about his faith, what else had he lied about? And more importantly, what was I going to do now? I spent the next few days in silence, drowning in my thoughts. Every "I love you," every prayer we had shared, every moment I had cherished, it was all tainted. I wanted to believe there was another explanation, that I had misheard him, misunderstood him. But deep down, I knew the truth. Finally, I confronted him. It was late, and we sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the only light coming from the dim glow of the overhead lamp. My hands trembled as I spoke. "Daniel, do you believe in God?" His expression flickered, just for a second before he let out a quiet sigh. He looked down, tapping his fingers against the table. And then, with chilling calmness, he said the words that would break me. Number I never have. My breath caught in my throat. But you told me. I told you what you needed to hear. He met my gaze, his face unreadable. I love you, Maria, but I knew you wouldn't marry someone who didn't share your beliefs, so I did what I had to do. A cold numbness spread through me, and the man I loved, the man I had pledged my life to, wasn't real. He was a carefully crafted illusion designed to deceive me. And worse, he didn't even feel sorry for it. I'd always believed marriage was a sacred bond, a covenant not just between two people, but between them and God. But now I was trapped in something that felt like a prison, shackled to a man who had no faith, no guilt, no remorse. I thought back to our wedding day, to the vows he had spoken so beautifully, and my stomach twisted with disgust. He had never feared lying before God, but I would make him fear something. I locked myself in the bedroom for hours after Daniel's confession, gripping my Bible as if it could somehow anchor me in the storm he had unleashed. My mind raced through scripture, searching for answers, for clarity, for anything that could make sense of this betrayal. What God has joined together, let no man separate. But had God truly joined us if our entire foundation was built on a lie? I prayed, but instead of peace, I felt fire. A rage I had never known before boiled inside me. How dare he? How dare he stand before God and promise a life of faith when he didn't even believe? How dare he reduce my deepest beliefs to nothing more than an obstacle to be manipulated? When I finally emerged, I found Daniel sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. The sight of his calmness, his ease, made me snap. You lied to me, I seethed. You lied before God. Do you even understand what that means? He sighed, setting his phone aside. Maria, I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it because I love you. Love, I scoffed. Love isn't built on deception. Love doesn't manipulate. You knew my faith was everything to me, and you decided it was easier to fake it than to respect it. Daniel rubbed his temples as if I was the one being unreasonable. I didn't think it would matter this much. I thought once we were married, you'd focus more on us than religion. I didn't see the harm in it. The harm? I took a step closer, my hands trembling. You stood in a church, made vows before God, and you don't see the harm? He let out a bitter laugh. Maria, I don't believe in God. To me, they were just words, a tradition. But I love you. Isn't that what matters? His words sent a shiver down my spine. Just words. The promises he had made to me, the sacred commitment we had entered into, they meant nothing to him. I clenched my fists, struggling to contain the storm inside me. Every time we prayed together, every time you pretended to believe, you were lying to my face. Was it funny to you, watching me pour my heart into something you think is nonsense? He sighed again, as if exhausted by my anger. I didn't laugh at you, I just knew you wouldn't marry me otherwise, and I didn't want to lose you. I stared at him, feeling something inside me break. He wasn't sorry. Not for the deception, not for the betrayal. He was only sorry that I had found out. You stole my choice, I whispered, my voice raw. You stole my right to decide if I wanted a life with someone who doesn't believe. You didn't love me enough to be honest. And now, I don't know if I can love you anymore. You lied to me, I told him. But now, standing in the ruins of our marriage, I realized something even worse. He had lied to himself too. Daniel thought he was untouchable, that his lack of belief made him immune to doubt. But faith and doubt are two sides of the same coin. And if he could tear down my faith with a lie, I could unravel his certainty with the truth. So I started asking questions. Not in anger, not with accusations, but with quiet, relentless precision. If God doesn't exist, why did you think you needed to lie? He scoffed. Because you wouldn't have married me otherwise. Then love wasn't enough. Faith mattered. And you knew it. His jaw tensed, but I wasn't done. You mock people for believing in something greater than themselves, but tell me, Daniel, what do you believe in? Science? Logic? Yourself? You built our marriage on a deception because, deep down, you knew that nothing else could hold it together. That's not logic. That's fear. The cracks began to show. At first, he pushed back, laughing off my words, dismissing my questions as nonsense. But I kept going. Every conversation turned into a debate. I wasn't trying to convert him. I was forcing him to confront his own contradictions, his own uncertainty. And then one night, he broke. It started as an argument. He was frustrated, exhausted, snapping at me to stop pushing him. But I saw it, the flicker of doubt in his eyes, the way his hands clenched when I pressed him further. If nothing matters beyond this life, then why are you so afraid to admit you might be wrong? I whispered. Something inside him shattered. His breath hitched, his eyes darting away. I. He stopped, gripping the edge of the counter like the ground beneath him was shifting. He had spent his life convinced that faith was a weakness, that believers were foolish, clinging to something imaginary. But the real fool was the man who had built his entire life on denial. And now, the lie he had crafted wasn't just unraveling my world, it was unraveling his. For the first time since I had discovered the truth, I had the power. I had stripped away his certainty, left him standing in the same darkness he had tried to drag me into. Only now he was the one questioning everything. People often say that love conquers all, that if two people truly care for each other, they can overcome anything. I used to believe that. I used to believe we could overcome anything. But love, no matter how deep, cannot survive without truth. After that night, after Daniel broke, something changed between us. He grew distant, no longer the man who had once so easily worn the mask of faith. He wasn't mocking me anymore, wasn't dismissing my beliefs, but he also wasn't rushing to embrace them either. He was stuck in between, caught in the wreckage of his own deception. And I was tired. Tired of fighting, tired of hoping, tired of looking at the man I had married and seeing a stranger. He had forced me to question everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and the very foundation of marriage. But in the end, my faith remained unshaken. If anything, it was stronger, because I had learned firsthand what happens when truth is absent. Daniel and I still share a home, but we no longer share a life. We exist in the same space, speaking in careful tones, avoiding the depth we once had. He watches me when I pray now, not with amusement, not with indifference, but with something else, something uncertain. Maybe he will change. Maybe he won't. But I can no longer make my life's purpose dragging him toward the light he refused to see. The greatest tragedy of our marriage wasn't that he didn't believe in God, it was that he never believed in me enough to tell the truth. I have learned that love is not just about passion, devotion, or even faith. Love is about honesty. Without it, even the deepest love will rot from within. I don't know what the future holds for us. Maybe one day, Daniel will find the faith he so easily pretended to have. Or maybe he will remain in this limbo, forever caught between denial and the possibility of something more. Either way, my path is clear. I will never again let my love for someone blind me to the truth. Because love without truth is just another beautiful lie. If you love this twist, just wait. There's more where that came from. Watch the next revenge story now and see karma strike again. If you loved this twist, just wait. There's more where that came from. Watch the next revenge story now and see karma strike again. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep the stories coming.